Hello, I'm Bruce DuPois. Coming up, Mitt Romney wins round one. The Republican presidential hopeful making the most of his first debate encounter with President Obama. But will it be enough to alter a White House race that, until last night, was leaning toward the incumbent? We'll talk with two people who watched the encounter with intense interest. Former Maryland Governor Bob Ehrlich is Mitt Romney's chairman in the Free State. Delegate Mizeur is a Democrat from Montgomery County. She supports the president. Then, Metro says it's taking steps to improve, but complaints from passengers seem to be on the rise. We'll talk with a member of the Metro Board, Ward 4 D.C. Councilwoman Muriel Bowser.
From News Channel 8, this is News Talk with Bruce DuPois.
Hello and welcome. So good to have you with us today. It's a special program. There is little doubt, as we kick things off, there is little doubt that Mitt Romney was the more focused and more skillful debater than President Obama in last night's first presidential debate. The question today is, will it matter? In a country where the electorate is so divided and where so many people have already made up their minds, can one 90-minute encounter sway the outcome? Joining us now with analysis of the first face-to-face meeting between the two men, former Maryland Governor Bob Ehrlich and Montgomery County State Delegate Mizeur. Welcome. It is great to see you both.
Thanks
very much for coming in. The ratings from last night were off the charts. Lots of people were tuned in. And across the political spectrum, it seems that President Obama didn't bring his A game, and that Mitt Romney may have turned in the performance of his life. Your thoughts on what we saw last night, Governor?
Well, obviously, as a Romney guy, it was a good night. But let me also empathize with the president a little bit. When you're the incumbent, it's hard. You are defending a record, and that's never easy. When you're president of the United States, you have the weight of the office on your shoulders. It's real hard. And when you have a record that's indefensible, it's real hard. So I think his and it was about the economy, which is just a difficult subject for the Obama campaign to engage in these days, obviously, because the macro numbers are all down. So with regard to his performance, I thought he started out a little bit like an incumbent president. He's not accustomed to being attacked. He's not accustomed to having people in his face to be aggressive with him. He's used to a compliant press and company excluded, and his staff and running the country. But this is different. Now, with regard to Mitt Romney, I know Mitt very well. This is the Mitt Romney I know. So I was not terribly surprised to see a prepared, aggressive, and a very capable candidate.
Delegate Mizeur.
I think we have to look at how we measure the score of the debate. If it's on honest arithmetic and accurate facts, the president showed why he deserves another 4 years. Mitt Romney has failed to be transparent about any of his plans. Really, they're talking points. He doesn't have plans, and they're inaccurate and they're misleading. On his tax plan, he says not a penny will be added to the deficit. We will not increase taxes on the middle class. We'll magically give increases to the high-income earners, and we'll do that all by, we'll make some changes to the deductions policy. What will those changes be? Will it be elimination of the mortgage interest deduction? Will it be not being able to take a child tax deduction credit anymore? Will it be writing off charitable taxes? If you add up in medical costs, if you add up every single deduction that middle-class families or all Americans, for that matter, depend on, it doesn't add up. Not one independent economist will say that Mitt Romney's tax plan adds up, and we need Mitt Romney to start being a little more open and transparent about his plans. The only time we get to see the real Mitt Romney and what he really thinks is behind closed doors when the secret cameras are rolling.
Is it possible?
I love this because this is coming from administration, and my friend over here couldn't get one Democratic vote for a budget in 4 years. Couldn't get one Democratic senator to vote for a Democratic budget in 4 years. Absolutely no leadership at all. None. Harry Reid hasn't even passed a budget in 3 years, by the way. And the Democrats control both houses with a Democratic president for the first 2 years. So it's just been checking in. This is a bad subject for this president. Bad growth, bad economics, bad unemployment, obviously. This is a very difficult task for an incumbent president with this record.
Let me pick up on the question that Delegate Mizeur poses. Is it possible that, and we all saw the reviews last night, from social media to the television, to the folks next to us on the sofa, there's a consensus about who is more in command, who is more energetic, who is more focused. But to Delegate
Mizeur, more
Mizeur,
factual.
But to Delegate
Yes,
Mizeur,
who was more factual? Who was more factual?
I mean, how crazy, as he said last night. But I know you so well, Bruce. I know your question. I know what your question is.
Let me not fall into the Jim Lehrer trap. Is it possible that the style points go to Governor Romney, but that, as Delegate Mizeur suggests, he left a lot of it significant.
The substance is the economy's in the doldrums. The substance is the American middle class is angst-ridden. That's the substance.
Getting his tax and fiscal policy to add up in a way.
Bruce, as Governor Romney said last night, you'd be crazy to go out there with a enumerated list of the preferences and all that, because all you're doing...
Crazy? You're running for president. It's crazy to tell people exactly what you intend to do to turn this economy around. Mitt Romney says 2 + 2 = 5. He refuses to show us how he will get to the bottom line here. And let's go back to the economy. This is an economy that Barack Obama inherited from George Bush because of the tax cut policies in 2001 and 2003, which, by the way, Mitt Romney doubled down on last night and said we should repeat again. Bill Clinton and Barack Obama's policies have shown that that is how you create jobs, you grow this economy, and you keep moving America forward.
Barack Obama hasn't created one net new job in this country, and of course the government, federal government, doesn't do that anyway. With regard to leadership, I inherited a fairly difficult situation. I was, as an incoming governor, and people begged me, Governor Schaefer begged me to criticize Governor Glendenning. That's not leadership. That's not leadership. That's not Churchill. That's not FDR. That's not Reagan. You don't blame something that occurred 4, 5, 6 years ago. You lead the country. It's a blame game, and last night it got exposed, and that's why he did so poorly.
Last night they got into the weeds of tax policy and fiscal matters and the rest, and I thought it had the potential to put, even given the interest that we have, it had the potential to put a lot of people to sleep. But the issue of will the status quo hold on mortgage interest deduction? Will the status quo hold on charitable giving deduction? That's not in the weeds, that's not fine print, and I'm wondering, is that in play right now, depending on who the next occupant of the White House is?
Mortgages? No, probably not. Probably the American middle class is addicted to the tax code. Here's the great...
Even though we have the 17,000 sort of cap idea that the...
I'm talking real politics here. I'm talking the
reality. Governor, you're the chairman of Mitt Romney's campaign here in Maryland. Do you know his policies? Probably not. We're electing a president here that we're expecting to keep this economy moving forward. Mitt Romney hasn't been transparent and honest about his plans.
The economy has not moved forward one day in 4 years.
How does his plan add up? How do we get to a balanced budget? How do we get to zero growth in the deficit? Promising no tax increase on the middle class. Really? It's not on his website. Mitt Romney has no plans on his website.
Please do your research, because months ago, we put a 59-page plan out. We talked about it on your show, Bruce, in fact, at the very beginning of this campaign during the primary season. The fact of it is, this is about Mitt Romney, but when an incumbent's on the ticket, and you know this very well, it's a referendum on the incumbent. It's also a referendum on the last 4 years. The last thing this president wants to do is discuss the failures of the last 4 years.
Were you surprised that the president seemed to leave, that his general demeanor seemed so flat, and that he seemed to leave so many potential points of attack, not to imply at all that you know, the thing is a cakewalk for him or a slam dunk. Each side has his advantages, if you will, and each side has the vulnerabilities.
Yes.
The president, I mean, folks on the internet were screaming at him, mention this, mention this, mention the third thing.
Yeah.
And we got through the whole night. Virtually none of it came out. There was something unusual going on that didn't work in his favor.
Well, we all know that President Obama was a former professor, and he can be very professorial and wonky at times. I think both sides were a little too much in the weeds. It was a little bit of a snooze fest as far as debates go. It wasn't the most engaging, interesting presidential debate I've ever seen. and will certainly give Romney some added style points. But there's two more of these. We know that the president performs best in a forum where he's able to talk one-on-one with the American public, and the open debate style that will be in the second and third debates will play to his advantage.
Quick follow-up.
The president performs best with a teleprompter, period. Without the teleprompter, he's off his game, and you saw at the beginning to the end last night.
Is the economy a vulnerability, or are we starting to see enough shoots of growth, of green coming out of the soil that it's not as clear-cut as the governor and others would suggest?
A lot of people tuned into the Democratic National Convention and heard Bill Clinton's wonderful speech about the arithmetic of this election and what the president inherited and how no president could have climbed out of the mess that he inherited in just 4 years. It needs another 4 years to keep moving us forward. But the investments that were made in the stimulus package, he's the first president since Harry Truman who not only tried to do health reform, but actually was able to achieve it. Between that and regulating Wall Street and going after Osama bin Laden, there are a whole range of victories that this president's put together in 4 years that deserves another 4-year term.
And that's why Mitt Romney is going to win. The two monumental failures of this administration, a failed stimulus and a very unpopular health care plan, is why he will lose this race.
What do you hope happens as the result? What sort of potential springboard can you realistically look for in the next 5 weeks if there's a bounce, if there's a debate bounce?
We probably agree on this, in fact. It's a very dynamic atmosphere because of Twitter and Facebook and 24/7 talk radio and cable TV. It's a story a minute, it's a story an hour, it's a story a day. So it's a very dynamic atmosphere here. With regard to the campaign, it was close before the election, it's close after the election. It comes down to a handful of states, these swing states. Both candidates will be in those swing states from now to the end of the campaign.
Talking with Bob Ehrlich and Heather Mizeur. A break, back with more News Talk here on News Channel 8 right after this. Welcome back to News Talk and our post-debate conversation with Maryland State Delegate Heather Mizeur, a Democrat from Montgomery County, and former Maryland Governor Bob Ehrlich, the chairman of Mitt Romney's campaign in the state of Maryland. Talking, of course, about last night's debate. Do you worry about a post-debate Romney bounce, or, as I think might occur, is it possible that the Democrats in general and his prominent allies in particular will kind of rally around and say, sure, our guy had an off night, but in the end, he's got a lot of things that we can emphasize to our advantage in the fall?
Absolutely. I have no worries at all about President Obama gaining re-election at the end of the day. November 6th is going to be in our favor. But I want to go back to a point that the governor made, that the stimulus package made no difference whatsoever. Let's just talk about what it's meant in Maryland. First of all, Mitt Romney said, let Detroit go bankrupt. Just let the auto industry fall on its face. And Obama came in with a rescue plan to retool the industry, saving 1 million of those jobs. And guess what? In Maryland, we have 1,000 workers at the Volvo Auto Train powertrain facility up in Washington County. Those jobs depended on coming in and rescuing the auto industry. We have the 3 top automakers turning a profit for the first time in a decade because of the investments that were made from the stimulus package and the auto recovery plan. Important things that are undeniable in Maryland. And another point undeniable in Maryland, going back to the facts last night, it's Maryland schools that have been #1 in the nation for the last 4 years, right, Governor? Not Massachusetts.
Under our administration, they sure were. I knew that.
No, 4 years. 4 years under Martin O'Malley.
4 years, yeah. Please don't start. In any event, this is what happens when you pick winners and losers. The GM bondholders might not think that was such a great result, by the way, which is one of the reasons the president's having such a problem with GM retirees in the state of Michigan. And the auto dealers and the folks who lost their dealerships may not think that was such a great result. And Solyndra and the green energy. When the government gets into picking winners and losers, that's when you have a problem. And I think that, by the way, that point
if the government hadn't gotten involved, the losers would have been the American auto workers, whose industry would have completely collapsed, and we would have had over 1 million auto workers out of work in this nation. Mitt Romney said, let them go bankrupt. We'll get our cars from another nation. Mitt Romney does not believe in manufacturing jobs in this country. He just doesn't.
That's absolutely silly.
It's in his own plan.
You lose credibility when you say Mitt Romney doesn't believe in manufacturing. That's just silly. Don't be silly here. Here's the bottom line of the debate last night. This president believes, you're from Montgomery County, so I get it. You believe in government. Government. The answer to everything is government. I get it. Mitt Romney is more of a market-oriented person. It's a great debate. It's conflict.
Can I offer a
the
thought?
philosophical divide was clear. That's what the election is all about.
Let me offer a thought about the issue that Delegate Mizeur raises. We had for a long time car companies that made too many of the same models that the public wasn't that interested in, and too many things that they were trying to pass off as different when they were really the same car with a different badge. What happened? The car companies went south during the recession. The government moved in. What did they do? They made the tough corporate decisions that the supposed MBA experts had put off forever, and who knows, if they had been in charge, would still be liabilities for these firms. They streamlined the companies, and they are now profitable today. I mean, there was a tough counter against the grain kind of a call that the president had to make vis-a-vis Detroit, and I'm not sure that
Bruce,
history will be so negative.
Well, we're not sure, are we? We're not sure.
The companies are around
it's
today.
Very well. They're around, but how healthy are they? And by the way, Ford didn't take it, and my dad was a Ford, as you know. So, but anyway, when the government thinks it knows better than the private sector, when the government gets into winners and losers, and you've seen this on Wall Street and other places, you have a problem.
We're not talking winners and losers. This isn't about the government being better than the private sector. It's about the government partnering with the private sector, public-private partnerships. It wasn't the government coming in and telling you. Ask GM, Chrysler, and Ford whether or not they appreciate the government coming into their assistance and collaborating with them on a retooling, refueling plan to save their industry. What do you think the answer is, Governor?
First of all, keep Ford out of that discussion. As I said, the bottom line is, and the reason the presidents Michigan's been so close, by the way, is when you come in, you by definition pick winners and losers. You do not pay attention to bankruptcy law, for example, which is why those bondholders, those retirees who had depended on GM's promises all those years, are not so happy with this president. You always have winners and losers. Again, I hate to bring up a sore subject here, but the green energy is and by the way, Republicans are as guilty as Democrats in the past. Not as guilty, I think, in this case. But when the government comes in and says, we know better than consumers, you got a problem.
Did you think, in your wildest, most optimistic thinking about the debate ahead of time, that you would get out of, that the Romney team would get out of that 90-minute encounter without having to defend, either from the moderator or the president, this notion of the 47% being deadbeat freeloaders?
It was really interesting because the low moment for our campaign, as far as the press and all, it was the 47%. The president's low moment obviously was you didn't build that, which he's paid a great price for as well. Neither one was brought up last night, so I thought that was interesting.
Lots of issues didn't get on the table. We hope they come up in the future. I mean, the future of the Supreme Court, the environment.
Healthcare.
Immigration. Well, no, healthcare did get discussed. Healthcare got discussed a lot.
Not in any kind of detail.
But they left a lot on the table.
Mr. Romney is very clear that he wants to repeal the president's healthcare plan, but he doesn't talk about what he would replace it with and how many people that currently are going to have coverage because they can't be denied under pre-existing conditions, or they're young adults that can stay on their family health plans, or that women aren't going to be. I would love that. Okay. Heather at heathermizeur.com.
You got it.
By the way, one person in Maryland politics who you both know, who I was talking with yesterday, said, "Oh, I hear you're having Heather Mizeur on with Bob Ehrlich. Interesting. It'll be the former governor against the future governor. We'll be tuning in." So thank you for an enlightened conversation. Delegate Heather Mizeur, if you want to announce, do so here today or some other time. Governor Bob Ehrlich, it's always good to see you. Thanks very much for coming in. Good to have you both with us. Coming up, does Romney get a bounce, and will it last? We'll ask journalists Scott Thuman and Deborah Simmons.